Welcome to Credit and Coffee. Today, I'm sharing the story of how the pursuit of a dream home revealed the hidden financial burdens and quiet anxieties that eroded my peace of mind. It started as most dreams do, with a vision: a sun-drenched kitchen, a sprawling garden for summer evenings, the kind of quiet street where children could still play freely, where the rhythm of life felt both vibrant and safe, a place where generations could grow and thrive, leaving behind a legacy not just of bricks and mortar, but of cherished memories and unwavering security. My wife and I had spent years meticulously building our life, each decision a carefully considered step towards this grand future, our combined income steadily climbing with each promotion and successful project, our discussions about future investments often stretching late into the night over empty coffee cups on the kitchen counter, the ceramics still warm in our hands, fueled by the ambition to provide something truly special for our family. Something that spoke not just of fleeting comfort, but of lasting stability and undeniable success. We dutifully watched the stock market, charting its unpredictable movements, made conservative investments focused on long-term growth rather than speculative gambles, always with an eye on the long game, on that distant horizon where a perfect home waited, a tangible reward for our patience and prudence. The concept of passive income was something we constantly explored, devouring books and articles, weighing options from rental properties to dividend-paying stocks, always looking for ways to bolster our financial security, to build a fortress against the unknown, a financial bulwark against the inevitable storms of life. We were diligent savers, meticulous with our budget, every dollar accounted for, every expense scrutinized, proud of our growing equity, the quiet satisfaction of watching our net worth steadily climb a powerful motivator. Then we found it, the house that wasn't just a dwelling but a promise, a four-bedroom colonial nestled amongst mature oak trees in a neighborhood known for its excellent schools and manicured lawns, a place where the air itself seemed to hum with quiet aspiration and carefully cultivated peace. The asking price made my stomach clench with a mix of fear and excitement, a figure that felt both monumental and, terrifyingly, achievable, a testament to all our hard work, all our planning, all the quiet sacrifices. Our financial advisor, a calm, reassuring man with a steady gaze and a voice like warm gravel, walked us through the labyrinthine world of mortgage options, patiently outlining the amortization schedules, the fluctuating interest rates, the potential for future refinancing should market conditions shift. He spoke of the importance of robust risk management, of diversifying our portfolio to weather any economic downturns, of ensuring we had ample insurance coverage for every conceivable contingency, from home damage to unexpected health crises. Everything on paper looked sound, solid, if a little stretched, a comfortable tension between aspiration and affordability. We had a healthy down payment, painstakingly accumulated over a decade, a good credit score reflecting years of responsible financial behavior, and what felt like an unshakable belief in our upward trajectory, an almost naive faith in our continued good fortune. The ink drying on those papers, the crisp sound of the pen scratching across the legal forms, felt like the culmination of everything, a weighty, significant moment, a physical manifestation of our shared aspirations, a binding contract to our future. Moving day was a blur of cardboard boxes stacked precariously, the pungent smell of fresh paint still clinging to the newly renovated walls, and the echoing sound of our own voices in empty rooms, each word a declaration of a new beginning, a hopeful incantation in the cavernous space. We spent weeks, then months in a euphoric haze, the sheer joy of ownership intoxicating, planning the garden with meticulous detail, sketching out flower beds and vegetable patches, picking out furniture that perfectly complemented the house's stately elegance, imagining years of boisterous birthday parties and quiet evenings by the fireplace, the crackle of burning logs filling the air. My wife's laughter, light and melodic, filled the rooms, a sound I cherished above almost all others, a balm to my soul, and I often found myself just standing silently in the spacious living room, a mug of coffee warming my hands, the ceramic a comforting weight, looking out at the perfectly green lawn, feeling an immense, quiet pride that settled deep in my bones. This was it, I thought, the tangible reward for all the years of careful planning, of disciplined saving, of navigating the complex world of investments, and understanding the sometimes daunting nuances of the market. We had made it. We were home, finally, irrevocably. The cracks, as they always do, began subtly, almost imperceptibly, like hairline fractures in a masterpiece, a faint marring of the perfect surface, unnoticed until the light catches them just right, revealing the hidden weakness beneath the veneer of perfection. The initial joy of ownership, that intoxicating sense of accomplishment and arrival, slowly, insidiously, began to give way to a persistent, low hum of anxiety, a discordant note in the symphony of our lives. Our mortgage payment, once a proud marker of our achievement, a testament to our financial prowess, transformed into a relentless, immovable weight, a boulder chained to our ankles. It loomed large on the first of every month, a silent, unforgiving demand, a constant reminder of the substantial debt we carried, a number that seemed to grow rather than shrink in my mind's eye. We had calculated everything, or so we thought, meticulously charting every projected expense, but the true cost of living in our dream home extended far beyond the principal and interest that had been so clearly laid out in our amortization schedule. Property taxes, which seemed to ratchet up with alarming regularity, home insurance premiums that climbed steadily, utility bills that seemed to balloon with each passing season, especially the bitter winter months. These were the unseen tributaries feeding into a growing financial river, steadily eroding our carefully constructed budget. I remember the chill of a particularly biting winter morning, the thermostat set lower than I would have liked, the faint smell of old coffee lingering in the air from my hurried breakfast, a quiet, almost melancholic reminder of an expense saved, a small comfort sacrificed. My wife, usually so vibrant and full of plans, her eyes sparkling with ideas for the garden or future trips, began to look tired, the lines around her eyes deepening, her gaze holding a quiet worry that mirrored my own, a silent acknowledgement of the mounting pressure. We found ourselves quietly passing over the organic produce at the supermarket, the vibrant colors and fresh scents of the higher-priced aisles now an indulgence, opting instead for the generic brands, the muted packaging a stark visual metaphor for our tightening circumstances. These were small, almost imperceptible shifts in our spending habits, yet they spoke volumes about the tightening belt, the quiet desperation that was starting to seep into our everyday lives. This was the quiet desperation of keeping up appearances in an affluent neighborhood where everyone seemed to effortlessly maintain their lavish lifestyles, their children always impeccably dressed, their cars gleaming. Our friends, many of whom had similar large homes and seemingly endless disposable income, would suggest impromptu dinners at expensive restaurants, weekend getaways to charming bed-and breakfasts, and I'd feel a knot in my stomach, a cold dread coiling there, quickly calculating in my head if we could afford to participate without dipping into our dwindling savings, without revealing the truth of our growing financial strain, the fragile illusion we were desperately maintaining. We had built a budget, a meticulous Excel sheet color-coded and cross-referenced, a digital fortress meant to protect our financial peace, but inflation was a relentless, unseen force, a silent thief, steadily eroding its foundations, making every projected cost an underestimate. The cost of everything, from the morning coffee at the shop near my building, the rich aroma of roasted beans now a luxury, to the school supplies for our children, their small hands eagerly pointing to the brightly colored notebooks, seemed to creep steadily upwards, far outpacing any modest increase in my income, leaving us feeling perpetually behind. We were becoming house poor, a term I had once dismissed as someone else's problem, now trapped by the very asset we had so desperately desired, our dream home transforming into a gilded cage. Then came the first of the major external pressures, adding to the already building internal tension, a seismic shift that threatened to crack our foundations wide open. My elderly parent, always fiercely independent, a stoic figure who had navigated life's challenges with quiet resilience, suffered an unexpected medical emergency. The initial shock of the phone call, the frantic rush to the hospital, gave way to a wave of logistical and financial concerns that felt overwhelming in their immediacy. Despite having some insurance, a policy my parent had maintained for decades, the deductibles were astronomical, the copays relentless. The specialist's fees, each new consultation a terrifying addition, began to mount with terrifying speed. We found ourselves navigating the labyrinthine world of medical debt, a bureaucratic nightmare of confusing forms and unhelpful phone calls, a burden that seemed designed to crush the spirit as much as the wallet, leaving us feeling helpless and utterly drained. It became painfully clear that ongoing care, beyond what their meager pension and limited savings could cover, would inevitably fall to us, a responsibility we had always anticipated but never fully prepared for, not in this sudden, all-encompassing way. This was the crushing reality of being in the sandwich generation, caught squarely between the escalating needs of our growing children and the increasingly complex needs of our aging parents, the pressure from both sides relentless and unrelenting. I found myself making calls during my lunch breaks, hunched over my desk, the glow of my computer screen illuminating stacks of medical bills, sifting through pages of fine print, trying to understand what was covered, what wasn't, the numbers blurring before my eyes as I tried to make sense of the overwhelming complexity. The weight of it all was immense, a constant companion that sat squarely on my chest, making each breath feel a little shallower, each moment of peace fleeting. The conversations with my wife became strained, hushed tones late at night after the children were asleep, the light from the street lamp outside casting long, distorted shadows across our bedroom, mirroring the shadows in our hearts. She suggested dipping into our emergency fund, a fund we had meticulously built over years for our asterisk emergencies, for unexpected job losses or home repairs, not these external, all-consuming ones. I hesitated, the thought of that carefully constructed safety net shrinking, unraveling before our eyes, filling me with a profound dread. I remembered an old friend, years ago, who had shared an exciting can't-lose investment opportunity, something tied to a new startup in a burgeoning industry, and how I dismissed it as too risky, too unproven, my conservative nature prevailing. Now, in a moment of sheer, unadulterated desperation, I wondered if I had been too cautious then, if a bolder move, a calculated risk with some early investments, perhaps even a small foray into the nascent world of venture capital, could have provided the cushion we so desperately needed now, a buffer against this unforgiving reality. I even briefly entertained the thought of exploring some of the more volatile cryptocurrencies, having seen distant acquaintances boast about their early Bitcoin gains, their lives seemingly transformed by a single, audacious gamble. But my inherent caution, my carefully cultivated understanding of risk management, always pulled me back from the brink of true recklessness, reminding me of the painful lessons learned about chasing quick gains. The idea of adding more debt, even for a potentially high-reward venture, felt like pouring gasoline on a fire, a desperate act that could only lead to greater catastrophe. The fear of compounding our problems was a more powerful deterrent than any imagined riches. The cracks deepened, spreading insidiously from our finances into the very fabric of our relationship, creating fissures where there had once been unshakable trust. My wife had always implicitly trusted my judgment with money, a trust built on years of sensible decisions, transparent discussions, and a shared vision for our financial future. But as the financial pressure mounted, a secret, like a venomous seed, began to fester within me, poisoning my peace of mind. A few years prior, a distant cousin, charismatic and full of boundless energy, had approached me, excitedly pitching a new tech startup idea, one he swore was going to revolutionize its sector, disrupting old paradigms and creating unprecedented wealth for its early investors. He spoke with fervent conviction of early investor rounds, of being at the ground floor of the next big thing, of exponential returns that would dwarf any traditional market gains. Against my better judgment, against every conservative instinct I possessed, fueled by a deep-seated desire to accelerate our path to true financial independence, to secure an even larger, more impressive down payment for that dream home, to prove my own financial acumen, I quietly diverted a significant portion of our joint savings into his venture. It was a sum that, while not catastrophic to our entire net worth, was substantial enough to make a very real difference in our daily lives, a sum I couldn't easily explain away. I didn't tell my wife, convincing myself it was a minor risk, a calculated gamble that would undoubtedly pay off handsomely, a testament to my foresight and a secret gift to our future. I envisioned surprising her with the extraordinary returns, the joyous look on her face when I revealed my hidden stroke of genius. But the startup collapsed quietly, ignominiously, a casualty of a saturated market and poor management, taking my investment with it, vanishing into the digital ether without a trace. I buried the loss deep, telling myself it was a bitter lesson learned, a small bump on the road to ultimate success. The guilt, however, did not bury easily. It gnawed at me constantly, a relentless, irritating itch beneath my skin. Now, with our current financial squeeze, the secret debt from that failed venture, the phantom money that was no longer ours, felt like a poisonous weight, creating a silent, unacknowledged chasm between us, a growing void where shared confidence once resided. My wife, perceptive and intuitive, sensing my increasing withdrawnness, my late nights spent hunched over our household budget, the numbers swimming before my tired eyes as I tried to find phantom savings, eventually pressed me. She observed my silences, the way I flinched from certain financial topics, the dark circles under my eyes. The confession was agonizing, a torrent of shame and regret, whispered across our kitchen table, the only light from the dim glow of the stovetop casting long, accusatory shadows. Her face, usually so warm and understanding, hardened into a mask of profound disappointment, her eyes mirroring the depth of my betrayal. The betrayal not just of the money, though that was a significant part of it, but of the trust, the fundamental openness that underpinned our entire partnership, hung heavy in the air between us, a palpable, suffocating presence. It wasn't just the money, it was the foundation of our partnership, built on shared burdens and transparent decisions, that had been fractured. The fight that followed wasn't loud, no raised voices or shouted accusations, but it was sharp, each carefully chosen word a precise incision, laced with accusations and recriminations, each phrase a chisel chipping away at the fragile edifice of our shared peace, leaving raw, exposed nerves. The unspoken question lingered in the silence afterwards, an invisible specter. How many other secrets did I hold? How many other hidden financial risks had I taken without her knowledge? Our marital strain became a palpable thing, a chill that seeped into the corners of our beautiful home, a stark contrast to the warmth and easy companionship we had once shared, a constant, uncomfortable reminder of our fractured intimacy. Adding to the relentless pressure, the whispers of instability at my workplace grew louder, becoming less whispers and more an undeniable, chilling hum. The major tech company I had dedicated over a decade of my life to, a place I had once felt secure and valued, a reliable source of my substantial income, began undergoing a drastic restructuring, a euphemism for widespread upheaval. Morale plummeted among my colleagues. The open plan office, once bustling with energetic collaboration, now buzzed with nervous energy, the kind that precedes a storm, a quiet tension that made every conversation feel loaded. Rumors of impending layoffs circulated like a virus, infecting every conversation, every email, every coffee break, creating an atmosphere of palpable fear and uncertainty. The golden handcuffs I had once appreciated, the generous salary, the comprehensive benefits, the illusion of prestige and career trajectory, now felt like real, constricting chains, trapping me in a job that had become soul-crushing, mundane, and increasingly precarious. The constant anxiety of potential job loss became another heavy layer in my already complex financial dread, a looming threat that overshadowed everything else. I would wake in the dark hours of the morning, the digital clock glowing red on the bedside table, my mind racing through endless scenarios, trying to devise a contingency plan, a desperate strategy to sustain our dream home, our children's education, our parents' escalating care, should my income suddenly vanish. I started looking for new opportunities, quietly updating my resume late at night after my wife was asleep, exploring options in different sectors, industries I knew little about, the prospect of a midlife career change looming large and terrifying. The instability of this unknown future, the fear of starting over, was a heavy weight. My confidence, once unwavering in my professional capabilities, began to fray at the edges, leaving me feeling vulnerable and inadequate. I saw my friends, once colleagues, now moving into new, exciting ventures, their social media feeds filled with optimistic posts about new roles and challenges, and felt a sharp pang of professional jealousy. They seemed unburdened by the constant, gnawing worry that consumed me. Meanwhile, the family burdens continued to escalate, proving to be an endless, draining well. My younger brother, brilliant but somewhat irresponsible, prone to chasing fleeting trends, finally reached out, his voice thick with shame, admitting he was drowning in a sea of student loans and credit card debt after a series of poor financial decisions, including a failed, impulsive attempt at day trading in the stock market that had wiped out his already meager savings, leaving him with nothing but a trail of losses. He needed help immediate and substantial, or he faced serious consequences, the threat of legal action or bankruptcy hanging over him like a dark cloud. My wife and I, still reeling from my confession about the failed startup investment and the mounting medical bills for my parent, argued about this new request, our voices hushed but laced with exhaustion. She saw it as an enablement, another drain on our already strained and fragile resources, a cycle of dependence. I, however, saw it as a moral obligation, a desperate plea from family that I couldn't ignore, a reflection of our shared history. The financial dispute with siblings, a new and unwelcome tension, added another layer of complexity to our already fractured peace, stretching our relationship to its breaking point. The weight of being the primary financial pillar for so many people, my immediate family, my aging parent, now my struggling brother, the constant need to manage debt, to find new sources of income, to stretch every dollar until it screamed, became almost unbearable, a crushing burden that left me perpetually exhausted. I felt like a juggler, desperately trying to keep too many fragile balls in the air, each one representing a crucial aspect of our lives, knowing that at any moment, one false move, one lapse in concentration, could bring the entire precarious act crashing down around me. The dream home, once a beacon of hope and a symbol of our aspirations, now felt like an elaborate, expensive trap, its beautiful walls enclosing not peace, but a suffocating sense of dread, a monument to our financial folly. The breaking point arrived not with a bang, not with a dramatic collapse, but with a quiet, insidious erosion of everything I thought I knew, a slow and agonizing dismantling of my carefully constructed world. It was a mundane Tuesday, the smell of damp earth after a morning rain filtering faintly through the open window, carrying with it the scent of decaying leaves and promise of colder days. I sat at our kitchen island, the expensive granite cool beneath my forearms, the morning light doing little to dispel the profound gloom that had settled in my heart, a heavy weight that mirrored the gray sky outside. A stack of bills lay before me, a physical manifestation of the crushing debt we were accumulating, each one a stark reminder of our precarious financial state. The mortgage statement, its large number mocking my earlier pride, a crushing medical bill for my parents' ongoing, escalating care, a new, inexplicably higher utility bill for the seemingly endless energy consumption of our large home, and a notice from my children's school about an unexpected tuition increase for an extracurricular activity, a necessity for their development that felt like another insurmountable hurdle. Each paper felt heavier than the last, imbued with the weight of our struggles. My wife came in, her face pale, her movements slow and deliberate, holding a crisp white envelope, a termination letter from my company, its corporate logo a stark contrast to the devastating news it contained. The layoff had finally come, a cold, impersonal email following weeks of anxiety, replacing years of loyalty and dedicated service with a few lines of corporate boilerplate. The words blurred on the page: restructuring, strategic realignment, redundancy, sterile terms for a deeply personal catastrophe. The world seemed to tilt violently on its axis, the solid ground beneath me suddenly giving way. My initial reaction was a strange, disorienting calm, an almost dissociative state, a quiet recognition that the inevitable had finally arrived, that the long-feared storm was finally breaking. Then the terror set in, a visceral, chilling wave that swept through me, stealing my breath. How would we pay for all of this? How would we maintain this beautiful, expensive illusion, this facade of success that had become so utterly draining? Our emergency fund, already significantly depleted by my parents' care and my ill-fated secret investment, felt woefully inadequate, a mere drop in the ocean of our needs. The dream home, with its manicured lawn and spacious rooms, its gleaming surfaces and curated decor, now felt like a giant, gaping maw, a hungry beast consuming every resource, every ounce of our peace of mind, sucking us dry. I looked around at the pristine kitchen, the expensive countertops that once filled me with pride, the high-end appliances that had been symbols of our upward mobility, and felt a profound sense of emptiness, a hollow ache in my chest. These were not the markers of happiness, but the chains of expectation, the quiet desperation of keeping up appearances, the burdens of an imagined ideal. My wife, seeing the letter in my trembling hand, simply sat beside me at the island, her hand finding mine, her fingers intertwining with mine in a gesture of shared sorrow. There were no more recriminations, no accusations, just a shared, heavy silence, a deep understanding of our mutual plight. The immediate shock gave way to a deeper, more profound realization, a clarity that cut through the fog of my denial. We had chased a dream, a vision of success defined by square footage and zip codes, by polished floors and impressive addresses, and in doing so we had allowed the unseen cracks to splinter our foundations, to erode the very core of our well-being. The mortgage, once a symbol of achievement, was now an albatross, a heavy stone around our necks. Inflation was a silent thief, steadily eroding our purchasing power, making every effort seem futile. And the family burdens, while unavoidable acts of love and duty, had highlighted how precarious our stable financial life truly was, how fragile our meticulously constructed fortress had become. I closed my eyes, picturing the quiet moments we had once shared in our much smaller, simpler life, the easy laughter, the effortless companionship, before the overwhelming weight of our ambitions had overshadowed everything, before the relentless pursuit of more had consumed our present. We had been so intensely focused on acquiring external wealth, on building a grand, impressive future, that we had inadvertently neglected the present, the small joys that actually constituted our everyday happiness, the simple act of being content with what we already had. The days that followed were a blur of practical decisions, difficult conversations, and a slow, painful shedding of expectations, a gradual stripping away of the layers of illusion we had built around ourselves. The initial panic of the layoff gave way to a strange, almost liberating clarity, a stark realization that while painful, this forced change was also an unexpected release. We decided to put the house on the market, a painful but unequivocally necessary step, a severing of ties to a dream that had become a nightmare. The thought of leaving our dream home, the place where we had envisioned so many years of memories unfolding, of children growing and holidays celebrated, brought a fresh wave of sadness, a gentle bittersweet ache that resided in my chest. But beneath that sorrow, a nascent sense of relief began to stir, a quiet exhalation of breath I hadn't realized I was holding. The golden handcuffs were off, not by my choice, but by circumstance, and in that enforced freedom, I found a lightness I hadn't realized I craved, a release from the soul-crushing job that had become a gilded cage trapping my spirit. We started looking at smaller homes in a different neighborhood, one where the pressure to keep up appearances wasn't so intense, where the simple act of living wasn't a constant performance. My wife, sensing my quiet despair, my moments of silent contemplation, was incredibly supportive, her strength a steady anchor in my storm. She acknowledged my mistakes, my secret debt, the profound breach of trust, but she also focused on the path forward, on rebuilding not just our finances, but our trust and our emotional stability hand in hand. We had raw, honest conversations late into the night about our shared values, about what truly mattered to us beyond material possessions, beyond the opinions of others, beyond the relentless climb of the corporate ladder. We discussed our long-term financial goals, revising our budget with a newfound realism, stripping away all unnecessary expenses, prioritizing security over show. I sold off the remaining modest investments I had, taking a small but unavoidable loss, liquidating assets to shore up our immediate needs and provide a buffer during this transition. We started a new, more aggressive plan to pay down what was left of our debt, particularly the medical debt for my parent, by finding more affordable care options and getting creative with our spending, every penny accounted for, every sacrifice made together. My brother, witnessing our struggles, our transparency, and the profound shift in our priorities, found a renewed sense of responsibility within himself. He offered to take on a repayment plan for his student loans, a sign of his own quiet growth and a welcome relief to our strained budget. It was a humbling time, one that stripped away the illusions of grandeur and forced us to confront the core of our being, revealing our vulnerabilities but also our resilience. I began seeking contract work, smaller projects that, while not offering the same income or prestige as my previous role, provided flexibility and a renewed sense of purpose, allowing me to reconnect with the aspects of my profession I truly enjoyed. I even started volunteering at a local community center, finding unexpected joy in helping others, a stark contrast to the relentless, often self-serving pursuit of personal wealth that had once consumed me. The sale of our dream home was finalized on a crisp autumn day, the air smelling of fallen leaves and distant wood smoke, the transaction feeling less like a loss and more like a liberation. We moved into a smaller, older house, one with its own quirks and character, with slightly uneven floorboards and windows that sometimes rattled in the wind, but one that felt crucially like asterisk, not a burden or a financial obligation. It didn't have the grand entrance or the sprawling garden, but it had a cozy living room where sunlight streamed through the windows in the afternoon, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air like tiny stars, and a small, fenced yard perfect for our children to play in, their laughter echoing freely. The mortgage was significantly smaller, the weight lifted from my shoulders palpable, a physical sensation of release. My income from the contract work, while not as high as before, was enough, and the constant, gnawing anxiety that had shadowed my every step began to recede, replaced by a quiet sense of contentment, a deep, abiding peace. My wife and I found our way back to each other, our relationship not just repaired but profoundly strengthened by the trials we had endured, forged in the crucible of shared adversity. We learned to appreciate the small joys that had once been overshadowed by our ambitions, a shared cup of coffee on the porch in the morning, the warmth of the mug in my hands, the sound of our children's laughter echoing in the more modest rooms, a simple dinner cooked together in our smaller, yet cozier kitchen. We started taking long walks in the nearby park, the crunch of leaves underfoot, talking not about finances or future investments, but about our day, our dreams, our gratitude for the simple, profound fact of being together, healthy and whole. I still carried the memories of the financial strain, the quiet despair, the betrayal of my secret investment, but they were no longer overwhelming, no longer defining my present. They were lessons etched deep into my consciousness, reminders of the true cost of chasing an external dream without first tending to the internal landscape of our lives and relationships. I learned that real wealth wasn't measured in square footage or portfolio size, but in peace of mind, in the strength of relationships, in the quiet joy of being content with enough, with exactly what we had. The unseen cracks in our dream home had forced us to reevaluate everything, to strip away the superficial, to find a truer, more resilient foundation built on honesty, connection, and gratitude. And in that new, quieter life, in that more modest home, I found a deeper, more enduring peace than any grand house, no matter how perfect, could ever offer. I was, finally, truly home. If you've ever felt the silent pressure of keeping up appearances, or the weight of a financial decision that went sideways, I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. What's one unexpected lesson you learned about true contentment when life threw you a curveball? Please like this video, share it with someone who might need to hear it, and subscribe for more stories of life's unpredictable journey. And tell me, what's one small joy you experienced this past week?